All right, we're going to go ahead and talk about day 4 of week 2. Your students will be sitting with their 9 o'clock partners for the first activity, and then they're going to move and sit with their 11 o'clock partners in the next activity. They're going to go to their planners and they're going to reflect on day 4. Looks like this. You'll see that there's a metacognitive exercise. They're actually going to be on this left-hand side. And basically, we're having them look at the quote again and determine what it has to do with being open to growth, that grad at grad value. And notice there's some repetition here. We want our students to recognize that's a grad at grad value. Once they have reflected and written something down, we also want them to think about a throwback Thursday. You can tell the students that they can have their phone out, find that picture, and then put their screens down just so that they're focused and engaged with you for the beginning of the lesson. Once that happens, you're going to pray with them, a prayer that they're going to be even more familiar with by the end of this week. Go over, we're going to get engaged with our 9 o'clock partner with that throwback Thursday. We're going to review Gmail and the importance of how we use our Gmail here at Loyola, aka email etiquette. And then we're going to work on beautifying our 6-word memoir into something that is interesting and unique. And then finally, we have our metacognitive exercise and talk a little bit about metacognition. So obviously you're going to model for students your throwback Thursday and take some time, right? Like we want our students to not just like say, oh, there's just one time this happened, right? Like I would go in, I'd say, this is somebody who's my personal hero. He passed away 3 years ago. Was really important uncle and godfather to me. And the funny thing was I grew up in Ohio and I was a big Ohio State fan, and he was a Michigan fan. And that was sort of our very cheeky rivalry that we had. And so today I remember my personal hero, somebody that brightens my day and is always with me, even though he is gone. So this is sort of what you would do. You'd model it. And if you're co-facilitating, do both of you. Once you've done that, then we're going to go ahead, give them time to review with their partners. You'll notice that they've got a good chunk of time, like 10 minutes. So give them time to do the bell ringer, maybe even discuss the quote a little bit if you'd like to, and then get into that throwback Thursday. Next, we're going to go to Gmail 101. This is when I would advise you to actually split screen like we've done before. So I would say, okay, I'm going to remember we use our bookmarks. We're going to click on our bookmark Gmail. Once your students have done that, we're actually going to ask them to put their laptop lids 45 degrees, and we're going to talk about some important distinctions. So the first thing is that teacher emails don't have the same ending as student emails. So teachers, coaches, and staff at Loyola have at loyolahs.edu, whereas students have lhsla.org, and that tends to be an issue. In fact, we have a Mike Mason this year that is a student and a Michael Mason that is a teacher. And that's a great example of somebody that if you were to email Mike Mason at lhsla.org, you are actually emailing the student, not the teacher. So just, making that, so I'll show you right now as it's loading. Michael Mason at loyolahs.edu versus Michael.Mason, or I think it's maybe it is, yeah, at lhsla.org. So that's kind of the crazy thing is I think we had that actually with John Ahern in the past where we had 2 John Aherns. So keep in mind that it's really important that you do a loyolahs.edu for teachers and then students. Next, we want to say it's really important to use this thing called carbon copy when you CC someone. That doesn't mean they're receiving the email directly, but you want to inform them of that information. So maybe ask the class, when do you think is an appropriate time to CC someone? And a student might say, well, if I have a grade change, I might CC my counselor. Or if I have an issue with the teacher and I want to, I've asked a couple times and want to bring my parent into the conversation, I'll CC them. Or maybe I'm turning in an assignment as a group and I want to CC my partner so that my teacher knows that I'm the one that sent the email, but these are my group members. So we really want to encourage our students to use CCing and to use CCing well. Next thing you're going to notice is appropriate avatars. So we want our students, when we click here and when we see their faces, we want to see them, and we don't want to see some random image of some person that I don't know who it is. And again, we want to click on the camera, and what'll happen is it'll pop up sort of this menu. So I can change it by either uploading. That's why we asked for them to have an appropriate headshot. They could take the picture in the moment on their computers and add it. But we really want all of our students to have a picture that represents them. And it could be a Bitmoji, but it has to be their likeness. So again, we're near the waffle, showed you that. Upload your face. That is important. So once we've just walked them through this, okay, go ahead and we're going to put you into a scenario. We're going to do this assignment called email etiquette. And I want you to go ahead and move and meet with your 11 o'clock partner. So new partner, new transition, and have a student read the situation. You believe that your instructor misgraded an assignment with your 11 o'clock partner. Draft an appropriate email using the guidelines highlighted in the email etiquette document. And you might say, well, where is that document? Well, we were just on day 4. If you flip, email etiquette 101 is right here. So what I would say to the students is actually when I give them a 5-minute reading period. I'm going to have you all take, or maybe less, like 3 minutes, have them read this with their partner, maybe silent reading, give them some time to digest it. And then you're going to say, okay, you've spent some time with the email etiquette document. Here's what you're going to do. According to that situation, you are going to write an email to me. So you're going to include CC your classmates, so CC your 11 o'clock partner. You are going to send an email according to these rules. So you need an appropriate subject bar, an appropriate greeting. You need a message. You need an appropriate closing. You should check your spelling and the tone. If you're sending the email, you need to have an appropriate avatar. And again, we're CCing a partner. So your students might ask, well, how many emails do we both need to? No, only one person has to send the email, but you have to CC your partner or he's not going to get the points. And then when they finish, they can go ahead and work on their Canva assignment that's due tomorrow at 8 a.m. You won't get to this as a whole class until probably the 15-20 minute mark. So usually email etiquette doesn't take 25 minutes, but we want to give them that reading time. We want them to work with their partner. We want them to double check their work. So it's okay if we go slowly through this, right? So once that happens, if they're done, we'll say, okay, whatever extra assignments you have, maybe it's your 6-1 memoir Canva, maybe you still have yet to turn something in from the previous classes. Maybe you want to go and get ahead on your homework, and you can tell them they have a homework assignment that's due, and there's a quiz involved with it. They could get started on that. So we want to use the time wisely. So once they finish the email etiquette, they've sent it, you check the receipts, you can say, okay, either finish your Canva assignment, or I want you to start thinking about and working on homework that's due for next class. Okay. Once that happens, you're going to take the last 15-20 minutes of class. I would say 15 is probably more appropriate for the exercise, but go ahead and say, all right, we spent some time with email etiquette. You might even want to debrief the email etiquette assignment depending on your timing. Like, what did you learn about Loyola's email etiquette? What was unique or different for you? What did you expect, right? And I like this because what this means is you're kind of reiterating to the students the importance of that self-advocacy, accountability, and that acknowledgement. I love the 3 A's of self-advocacy brought to you by Anthony Fernandez, which is, I think, a really helpful tool. And we included this here in the document. So once we say, okay, we're going to end independent work time, we're going to go ahead and move to the page it says CY1 Day 4, where it says metacognitive exercise right here. And first, before we get to it, we want to ask students, well, what is metacognition? The picture in the background is a hint. And hopefully the students will recognize, oh, like the brain, thinking about thinking. And we're going to ask students, well, why do you think it's important to think about thinking? And, hopefully you get some answers. And well, it's important for us to think about our learning, because when we do that, it slows us down a little bit. It tells us what we really understand. It reminds us of what we've just learned that we might need some extra help and support in. And it might also be like, I don't understand this assignment at all. This gives us an opportunity to reflect and refine, because, for example, I might be really good at language, but really awful at science. And so for me, with my science classes, I have to spend more time thinking about what I do and do not understand in order to progress forward, right? I might believe that I know what the Krebs cycle is, but then can I draw it on a piece of paper? I mean, now I couldn't, but that's what we're trying to do, right? Is think about thinking and thinking about learning, and do I really get this or not? And can I, one of my favorite tools is if a parent or a guardian or someone in my life asks me, explain this concept, could I explain it? And could I provide an example? If I can't do that, then what that tells me is I haven't learned it yet. It tells me I recognize it, which is one part of learning. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go through this sort of power of metacognition. You can have the students read this little description on the side, and we're going to say we're going to assess, evaluate, plan, apply, and reflect. And we're going to continue this cycle. So we're going to start with this quote again, being we must be taught how to think, not what to think. So this is metacognition is a process. Email etiquette is a process of self-advocacy. So we really want them to be process-oriented, not outcome-oriented. So in our planners, we're going to start with that reflect stage and begin with evaluating the lessons. And what do we mean by that? We don't mean evaluate the teaching, evaluate the person. We want students to evaluate, well, what did you already know about, what did you already know before entering CY1? Let's think about days 1, 2, 3, and today's day 4. What did you already know and experience in your middle school or primary school backgrounds? Because you have time to breathe here, give the students 1 to 2 minutes to really write. If a kid's like, I don't have enough space, which is very likely, they also have this beautiful notes and journal section, which is excellent for students that really want to like dig deep. Next, and again, what have they already learned? What's new? So that's the first phase. Do that for 2 minutes. It might be quiet. You might add music. Do you? Strengths. How can you prove that you've learned it? So instead of, this is something where you might need to clarify, like, okay, if I said that I understand all the functions of Canvas, I can't say show it as the answer. I'd be like, well, modules are this. So we want students to define it. So have the students go ahead and define aspects of their learning that they already knew, or in this case, what they didn't know. What is still fuzzy, needs clarification. So is there something about Genius Scan that doesn't make sense to the student? There's something about the 6-word memoir or using Canva. Like, I don't understand how to use what WYSIWYG means, right? We want students to write things down they still don't get, because they're going to Genius Scan this to you, and this is going to provide you information about your students. It's data. Okay, my students don't understand what grad values are. I got to spend a little bit more time at the beginning clarifying what that is, right? And then apply strategies. So what do you need to do in order to improve in your areas of growth? So they've written down what they don't understand. Now they're going to think about, what is it that I need to do in order to get better at these things, right? And maybe who can I reach out to? And a very obvious answer is you, but it also could be a parent and guardian. It could be a coach. Tell students to really think about, you're writing this down, and guess what? You're going to Genius Scan this to me. So I'm going to hold you accountable to your reflection. So be honest and earnest about these things. And then finally, and this is the most important question for the apply strategies, how do you plan to do that? How do you plan on getting the support you need in order to help you with your areas of growth? Maybe that darn password is just hard for you to remember. So maybe you need to reach out to the tech department about, okay, what's a good way, like what's a good password protecting program? Where are good places for me to hide my password, but that are readily accessible to me? These are sort of the things that we want our students to do. And we're telling them that this exercise is what they can do in all of their classes. And I always recommend after a day of school. Okay, what classes did I have today? I had Spanish, math, English, and I had health. What did I learn? What do I get and can prove and can teach to my family? What does not make sense to me? And if it doesn't make sense to me, what am I going to do about it? And I would actually walk them through that example at the end. Like, this is a tool. Can you use this tool later in CY1, or even more importantly, later in your scholastic journey as a first-year student? Once you feel like everyone's sort of settled, they figured it out, you're going to have them take a picture and or Genius scan this page. You're going to have them submit it and tell them if it's a bad picture, take it over again. We don't want anything blurry. We want their handwriting. We want to be able to read it, right? Because you're going to provide points and feedback to this. And I'm going to say, as an instructor, you're going to give feedback to the areas of growth there because you really want to help them out. And if a kid's like, I get all of this, that's where you get to say, congratulations, you are really ready for Loyola. Can you be a leader to X? Empower your students to have voice. I think that's major. All right. Now, this is so exciting. This planner is great, but you'll notice it starts in July. So we finally get to use it. So this is where I'd say, all right, everybody, did you all Genius scan your stuff? Beautiful, beautiful. Let's go ahead and open our planners to July right now. So you'll see that we have the last week of June, so they could have written their assignments for June 28th and for June 30th, thank goodness. So what I would do is say, okay, we know that our Canvas 6-word memoir is due Friday, your course contract is due Friday, and your academic integrity clause is due Friday, 8 a.m. Let's go ahead and write that down so that we know that that's when that's due. The next page we're going to go to is, I want you to write on calendar day 4 and 5 that we have holidays. And then on day 5 for Loyola, which is the 7th, you have homework that's due in the morning, 8 a.m., and you have a quiz on that homework. So we want to be diligent about making sure we study and take really good notes. Fortunately, it's a note-taking guide, so you just have to fill it out. All right. You may or may not have extra time this class. If you have extra time, have the students start doing day 4 homework or have them turn in things that are due Friday. We want to use this time so that they know that, okay, if you have extra time in class, let's be productive with it. We're not going to just go on to whatever Netflix show we want to watch, right? We want them to learn to use their time wisely and be productive in class. And this also will give you an opportunity if a kid doesn't get how to use the guide, you can help them out, which is really sincerely fill a table according to what you watch. All right. So that is day 4. Day 5 is the only day of the week because we get that Tuesday off. So just remind your students that I will not see you next Tuesday. I'll see you Thursday. All right. And that is that.